That's right. Just climb in, and we are ready to ride with the CNC Auto Show. I want to say hello to all you car lovers out there, and welcome to the CNC Auto Show. And I am Aaron Clements.
I'm John Ryan.
And we are both here to share information on ways to make your car, truck, or SUV safer, to make it more dependable, and to make it last longer for less money and less hassle. And we are also here to take your phone calls. All you have to do is pick up, smile, and dial 706-863-5800. That's Saturday mornings, 8:05 to 10 Eastern Time. And you can catch us also on iHeartRadio, WGAC 95.1, and watch us live on Facebook at CNC Auto Show. And we would love for you to join us. We got a really fun show planned for today. One of the things that we'll be talking about is teenage drivers. We're going to be giving a lot of tips on teenage drivers. As it turns out, drivers ages 16 to 19 are, get this, 3 times more likely to have an accident.
I believe it.
And we're going to mention some ways that we can lower that number a tremendous amount and have safer drivers out there.
Good deal.
There's a lot of great tips out there for that. Before we get cranked up really good, we want to mention that if you or a friend are looking for a good, dependable auto repair facility, I recommend we recommend.
That's right.
Going to NapaAutoCare.com. You can go to that website, and there's a little search feature at the top of the corner of the page, and you can type in your city and or zip code.
Zip code, yep. And narrow it
you
down
can do
how far
like
you
a
want
5-mile search, 10, 15, 20, whatever you want to do. And you'll have a list of some of the best automotive repair facilities in the country. And that's if you're out on the road or if you're looking for a shop to build a relationship with. That's NapaAutoCare.com. I did mention that we were given some tips on teenage driver safety,
right?
And so we got a lot of real good things to talk about in that area. And we want to encourage everyone 2 things. If you have a teenage driver that you have a question about or something, a question of ways to help your teenage driver to drive safer, give us a call. If you have a short story that you want to mention about your teenage driving, or when you or
teaching somebody to drive,
of when you very first got your driver's license, give us a call and mention that also. And I'll mention my memory of driving when that come. Now, this is probably just not too long before I had my driver's license,
right?
But I remember very well driving through cow pastures and things like that. We had a little Volkswagen Fastback, and it was a manual transmission. And I would go fishing so that I would get to drive the car a lot.
You weren't really wild about the fishing part.
No,
you were
the
just
fishing part didn't turn me on near as much as being able to drive the car, because I knew when we got to that cow pasture to
switch seats
out there, that as soon as that gate opened, I was behind the wheel.
That's
and
right.
I was ready to drive. So I would go out there and I would just drive a huge amount. It was a long way over to where the ponds were and things like that. So really had a good time. And I would say that by the time I went to get my driver's license, I was pretty much prepared and ready and breezed right through it.
I think that is something different. Of course, I was kind of the same way. I got to drive before I had a license and a permit and that kind of thing. But it seems like most drivers today, their first driving experience is after they get their learner's permit, and it's on the road and it's heavily, traffic and whatnot. But yeah, I'm the same way. We drove on gravel roads for, I'd probably say, years before we even we're close to age 15 to get our learner's permit.
I think it might be fun to have someone to call in and we'll talk about the youngest age driver.
There you
go. That person will get a coffee mug for the person that calls in, and they turn out to be the youngest driver.
All right.
on the show. Okay, we want to go ahead and throw the tech tip quiz out there also.
Okay.
And, of course, the winner will receive a simply marvelous tech tip quiz prize package. Along with a lot of other items. They can get a hat or a coffee mug, and also the unbelievable, cherished I Answered the Tech Tip Quiz golf shirt. And this will be a tech tip quiz that I'll bring back. We didn't get an answer to the tech tip quiz last week.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring this tech tip quiz back with a twist. We parked a white 2002 Ford Explorer outside at noon on an asphalt parking lot for 4 hours. The temp outside was 100 degrees. Temp inside was 54.5 degrees when we parked it.
All right, slow down. They're writing this stuff down.
All right. What was the inside temperature after the truck was parked for just 30 minutes? And here's the twist. You win even if you guess within 5 degrees, and we'll only take 3 callers.
Oh, okay.
If no one's got it after 3 calls, we'll give the answer because we don't want to
tie too much time up.
Exactly. We don't want to eat up too much time. Okay, now, some of the things that one of the first things that we want to mention about teen drivers is that those teenage drivers watch you very closely.
They do, absolutely.
Yeah, that is their first driving instruction on watching their parents or whoever they're riding with, what they're doing.
Yep.
So it's real important, even when your kids are at a very, very young age and they're riding with you, for them to see you have good driving habits that you go through.
If you're smashing the steering wheel and trying to rip it off and texting and all that, that's exactly what they're watching.
That's what I was thinking, too. They will tend to do the same thing.
The best advice I have is just don't let anybody ride with you. All right, Aaron, you ready to go over to the phones?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's go over to Eddie.
Hello, Eddie. Welcome to the CNC Auto Show.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Doing very well. Welcome to the show, and what can we help you with?
Well, I just heard you say you were going to take 3 callers for the tech tip quiz.
That's
so
right. You get a good shot at it first thing.
So you're 30 minutes in 100-degree heat, and it was, 56 degrees?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to guess 160 degrees inside.
Wow. That is absolutely wrong.
Wrong. Well, it was a shot, you know.
Yeah, it was. Eddie, we do appreciate your call.
But thank you very much.
Thank you. And he gave it a good shot.
He did.
Another thing that that they look at the kids will look at, is making sure that everyone's buckled up inside a car. If you don't buckle your seat belts, or you drive off and other people are buckled up, and you have this younger child sitting there and absorbing all this information, when they get older, they're not going to ask other people to buckle up that's inside their car, or worse yet, they may not necessarily buckle their seat belt when they get inside the car. So all of that is very important. You want to go to the next caller?
Yeah, sure. Let's squeeze in Alan.
All right, let's do it.
Got about 2 minutes before we go to break.
Alan, welcome to the CNC Auto Show.
Good morning. You said the temperature outside was 100 degrees. Is that correct?
Well, the temperature inside when they parked the vehicle was 54.9 degrees.
Okay, and it was in the heat, the sun, 100-degree weather?
Oh, it was noon outside, and it was 100 degrees. Absolutely.
I would say it would be 93 degrees.
93 degrees. That is absolutely wrong. Alan, we appreciate that call very much.
Okay. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
Well, we appreciate you calling. Okay. And we're talking a little bit more. We're going to give one more idea on the on
teen drivers,
what the kids look for when you're driving. But of course, one of the things that they look at: do you get mad and excited when someone does something? Do you, like you mentioned, if somebody
cuts you off or something? What do you do?
Do you hit the wheel? Do you stomp? Do you try to catch up with them?
Do you hit their bumper, like that kind of thing?
And tell them that they're special?
Yeah, or number one.
Yeah, number one, things like that. And again, the kids look at that. So be courteous when you're driving. Buckle those seatbelts. Don't text and drive. And it is time for a quick break. And when we return, we'll answer your automotive questions, and we'll also be prepared to talk more about the teenage drivers. We'll be right back after these messages. It is a good idea to do, and we talked about it a little earlier, is do not text and drive, and teach your teenage driver, do not text and drive. And this can be difficult behavior to change, but it can be achieved by rules and boundaries set by parents. There's also some apps that can be put on phones that when they're moving, that they're not able to use their cell phones. Some of that are.
I like that one. I know you don't, but I like that one.
Yeah, I'm not wild about it. I think the biggest thing is set that positive example for the kids. That to me is the number one. Ready to go to the calls?
Yeah, but kids don't listen. So okay, let's go to Kevin.
Hello, Kevin, and welcome to the CNC Auto Show. And what can we help you with?
I wanted to answer the question.
Well, you are in the right place to do that, because here's the trick here, Kevin. You are our last hope on answering this Tech Tip quiz, because we said we would take 3. You are number 3, so everyone is depending on you to answer this Tech Tip quiz.
To be fair, Kevin and Eric did call at the same time.
Oh, they did.
So if Kevin doesn't get it, I'm for giving Eric a chance myself.
All right, Kevin, as it turns out, it was a tie of people calling in. All right, so you will be number 3.
But he's going to get it. So.
Yeah, you're number 3.5. No,
3.5.
number
2 point.
I'm sorry, 2.5, and Eric will be number 3. So, Kevin, all eyes are on you. What is the answer to today's Tech Tip quiz?
It is still 55 degrees.
Now, how can that be, Kevin? I mean, it was 55.
It's a refrigerator reefer truck, so it has a separate engine on it to keep the inside cold, to keep the product in there.
Kevin, I think you're close enough. I really do. Yeah, actually, the 2002 Ford Sport Track had an inside temp of 54.5 when it was parked outside at noon on a 100-degree day. After sitting in the hot sun for that 30 minutes, the outside temp was 53.9, which is within the 5 degrees that we talked about.
How could that be?
Well, the engine, oh, what a timely question. The engine was left running so that we could check out a running hot at idle condition. And so the air conditioning was on inside the car as it was sitting there.
Nobody said we shut it off.
Yeah, we said we parked it. We didn't say we cut the car off. and Kevin, you know what you did? I had planned to give myself a Tech Tip quiz. I don't own a Tech Tip quiz shirt.
That's why he only gave 3 people the option, too.
And so I come up with this really hard one that I thought nobody would get an answer to, and I would get to go home with the shirt. You snatched the shirt right off my back, Kevin. That hurts, man.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But you are a winner, so you get to come by. You get to stay on the line, and we'll get your information, and you will receive the prize package that includes a hat or a coffee mug and the I Answered, the Tech Tip Quiz golf shirt. And, Kevin, use your powers wisely.
Thank you.
This is huge. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, let's go to Eric, who would have been number 3.
I wonder if he's going to be disappointed.
Well, he's also got a comment for us also. Eric, I am so sorry.
We already
man.
know what Eric, that was your answer too, wasn't it?
I was just going to say that. That was my answer exactly.
All right. You had
Yeah,
a comment about a teenage driver.
Yes, when you guys spoke about, your kids watching you drive and you're doing exactly everything correctly and they'll mimic what you do.
Uh-huh.
And I tell my kids all the time because I learned to drive in Europe. I learned on the Autobahn.
Uh-huh.
Don't drive as I do. I've been doing this for 40 years.
Uh-huh.
Well, my daughter, she went to driving school. She got her license.
Mm-hmm.
She has totaled 4 vehicles.
Ooh.
She's turned 21 this year.
She didn't listen to
now
you, did
she drives like an old lady. She did not listen at all.
Uh-huh.
She did as daddy does, not as daddy says. And
She didn't enter demolition derbies, did she?
My son, he recently got his license, and he got his license on the 10th of June.
Uh-huh.
And at 12:30 and at 4:30, he totaled his car.
Oh, all right. Oh, my goodness.
Eric, I hope you're an insurance agent.
Oh no!
Well,
So he got. Let me get that.
my-
Now. He got his license at 12:30 and totaled the car at 4:30.
that is correct.
Wow, that might be some type of a
And,
record. I hope that he didn't get hurt though. That's the main thing.
He did not get hurt. It was a low speed crash. It was still within our subdivision, and so
How's the person's
it worked
house?
out. And well, he didn't hit a house. He hit a few other things. But I said, I asked him which one was he doing. Was he texting or talking on the phone? Which one?
Uh-huh.
And he said that he was doing neither of the two. But I'm kind of grateful, but not at the same time, because this one, hopefully, it scared him straight.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to worry about him again.
Yeah.
But the kids really, truly have to be careful when they get
They
that
do.
license, because
Yeah.
it's not a joke.
The good part is he didn't get hurt. Eric, I'll mention this real quickly. That is a fact that most people have accidents within 3 miles of their house.
I believe you've got a T-shirt that says that.
Well, I started to move because of that.
Aaron did a barrel roll,
Yeah,
cartwheel.
I didn't
end
want
up
to
in
take a chance, so I was going to move. Eric, we appreciate you sharing that story. Glad your children didn't get hurt, or your son didn't get hurt when he had that accident, and hopefully it'll be smooth sailing from here on out on that.
Hopefully, because I'd hate for them to drop me from my insurance.
Exactly. Thank you,
guys have a
Eric.
good day.
Okay, it is time for a quick break. When we return, we'll answer more automotive questions, and we'll discuss a little bit more about teenage driving and a lot more.
All right.
And we'll be right back after these messages. One of the things we do want to mention, having to do with teenage driver, is it is a good idea to invest in a driving course. It makes them feel a little bit
You mean like
safer.
a driving class?
Well,
What do you mean?
a driving course, driver's ed.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
driver's ed.
I don't know what I was,
the
for some reason I was
guy
thinking.
gets
Yeah.
behind the wheel, and the other person gets in there, and they have the brake pedal on the other side.
Yeah.
where they can slam on brakes right before you hit something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Works
that
out good.
that type deal. And it's a good idea to invest in those. It does several things. It gives the person driving more confidence. It teaches them the right way to do it instead of your way to do it.
I'm not positive, but I think some states require it, don't
Yeah,
they?
that's very possible.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if
For some reason, I was thinking our state.
yeah,
does
I'm not
that.
sure
I'm not
which
exactly
states
sure,
do
but-
that, but some probably do require
Yeah.
doing that. But it's a good idea. It lowers your insurance, and it's just helpful, and they may pick up some very good tips, or they would pick up some very good tips on driving. Are we ready to go to the calls?
Yeah, let's go over to Ron.
And hello, Ron, and welcome to the CNC Auto Show. What can we help you with?
So, thank you, Aaron and John and Ryan. It's just some observations I've made throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing we could do for teenage drivers today is to, of course, number one is to legalize marijuana. That needs to be done.
Oh,
That'll help.
that's important.
That just give them one more thing to do in the car.
yeah.
Well, that's right. It'll help them focus.
Wait, they've
and
done
it'll
that
help
in some places.
And also, we need to get the movie companies to, even the car manufacturers, to give a widescreen TV monitor on the dash
Yeah,
so that
project
they
it
can
across
have
the windshield.
pay-per-view.
Uh-huh.
That's right. So we can have paid-per-view TV as well as the internet access and such as that,
You know, I think that might work because then maybe they wouldn't go anywhere.
And make more movies like Fast and Furious to really get us going.
Oh, yeah, the Night of the Dead. I mean, we just have we got so many things that we could help our teenage drivers drive better.
Yeah.
And we haven't even scratched the surface yet. We could lower the drinking age. I mean, that would help.
Yeah.
Well, there are just so many things that can be done.
Maybe even put a keg in the
Well,
trunk.
I think what you're trying to say,
I
Ron,
didn't
in a
even think of
roundabout
that.
way, is it is going to be to teach the child to use their own judgment and don't listen
Their
to
own good
outside
judgment.
influences, and that all comes to the parenting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Look, guys, too, just something, that was a little bit lighthearted, I understand.
It was.
But, well, you was talking about funny stories, your earliest driving experience. I grew up out in the rural area, my brothers and I, and we all started driving real early. We drove tractors. You were just dying to get into the vehicle or the truck to go for a spin anywhere. Well, anyway, my youngest brother, Stan, he wasn't about 8 years old. He decided he needed to go to Tennessee to visit his cousin. So he jumped in the old 55 Ford and drove up there. And at that time in Columbia County, it wasn't but one sheriff, Sheriff Tankersley, and he had one deputy, Bo Knox. They stopped the vehicle because they thought it was a runaway vehicle. They couldn't see him in the driver's seat. He was just able enough to hit the gas pedal and the brake pedal and to look over the dash.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody knew everybody back then. He just brought Stan in the car back to the house, and of course Stan got dealt with later on. But it was just that kind of atmosphere back then. And I would feel certain in saying that Stan probably drove better than a lot of people do today.
Yeah, he got started early.
Well, that's the thing. You learn on tractors and stuff like that. You're almost born natural with it.
Yeah.
Versus I've played Xbox all my life, and now I'm a fantastic driver,
Guys, I don't know what the answer could possibly be. I know here lately I have heard more deaths and carnage on our local roads than I ever have in my entire life. I'm 66. And I have never heard on the news as many deaths on the roads today as I have here recently. I mean, I'm talking about just within the past year or two.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it, the best way that we can reduce that number is to educate people on things that they can do to drive safer.
That's right.
And the pitfalls of things like texting and driving. Texting and driving has played a large part in different accidents, especially with the teenagers, or I would say more distracted driving.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there's just so many things that take your attention off. There's digital billboards. There's
that and all your friends in the car, that kind of thing.
And even things.
It's a real complicated matter because I don't think it's just any one tier. It's multi-tiered, and when you've got a society that's getting into this real liberal way of thinking, and they think it's okay to smoke a joint and get out on the road, you start you start eroding your defenses, and what you see is the potential danger.
Exactly.
Then you let friends dictate to you what other stupid methods to take. It builds upon itself with everything that's going on today. With text messaging, the availability of drugs. It just the kids today. God help them. I feel sorry for them. When we were kids growing up, Lord, the only thing you had really, to get in trouble over is maybe smoking a cigarette. But now, my God, that's nothing.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Right, yeah.
Well, look, guys, y'all have a safe weekend, and
thanks,
watch the road.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay,
the number to call, 706-863-5800. That's 8:05 to 10 Eastern Time. And let's go straight to who?
Lynn.
Hello, Lynn. Welcome to the show. And what can we help you with today?
Good morning. I need to get a little bit cooler in my car.
Have you tried sunglasses? That would make you cool.
I don't.
Oh, you talking about the temperature? Oh.
Hold on, let me help you out with that, Aaron.
Oh, Lynn, that caused me to get the ah button. That hurt.
Oh.
A little cooler in the car. What type vehicle do you have, Lynn?
I have a 2003 Ford Escape, and I took it to a shop recently. I'm not going to say names now because they're good people and all, but they weren't you. It was low in Freon, but it had a leak. So they replaced, they put the seals in, fixed the leak, loaded it back up, and they told me that it was better but it wasn't like it should be. And they were really, really busy, and I needed to get to a doctor's appointment that day, so I couldn't leave it for them to work on it. And he was curious because when it's sitting idle, it's at like 49 degrees. It's really cold.
Mm-hmm.
But then as he's driving down the road, the temperature goes up to 60. And I don't use the AC
normally
a
it's
whole
the
lot.
exact opposite.
Yeah. That's a little bit the opposite of what AC systems, the concern that we normally
Characteristics
hear.
of it, yeah.
This is going to require some thought, John Ryan.
Well, I can tell you what would help me with it, or a technician would be, is to know what the pressures are going down the road, of course.
That is true. Yeah.
What we would normally do is actually connect a set of manifold gauges, which tells us the pressures of the high side and low side of the compressor, and see what it is, because it could show that during higher RPMs, it could show that the compressor isn't pumping enough, which would be odd, because again, they're at idle, it seems to be pumping fine. And then the same thing for the low side. Really not too many things as far as a restriction in the system would be caused at higher speed versus low speed.
That is a really, you just don't know how unusual that issue is, Lynn, because again, it's normally the opposite.
Right.
Some of the things that come to mind, are we getting a proper airflow across the condenser? Is there any chance that the condenser may be restricted?
Yeah, but I don't see what that. I mean, again, it wouldn't cool. It would cool worse at idle. It would be building more heat.
Well, that's possible.
Yeah.
But again, if it's pressures, Lynn, I believe what I would recommend doing. Of course, the other place, they didn't have the proper time that they wanted to spend on that. To be sure what's wrong. And since it has been looked at, I definitely would give them an opportunity to do that as far as getting the vehicle in and spending that amount of time. That way they'll be able to do things like check the pressures, and things like that do take a little bit more time to do. But checking the pressures.
I did just think of one thing before we go to the break, too. If it was overcharged, it could be freezing up at high RPM.
Oh, John Ryan, you may have hit that.
Yeah.
Hey, Lynn.
Lynn, do you mind holding through the break?
Yeah, John Ryan might have hit on something.
Oh, I don't mind.
Great, fantastic. We are going to take a break, and John Ryan's brilliant idea popped into his head having to do with his Ford Focus. So he will expose that as soon as
what he said.
Yeah, as soon as we return with the CNC Auto Show. We'll be right back after this. Lynn, we are back with you, and John Ryan is going to expose his brilliant idea
You're making it
that
sound
we
like
talked
it's
about.
Foolproof.
It's huge, man.
Okay.
It's really good.
Lynn, the only thing one thing that I think of on that is if the system is overcharged, or actually undercharged, really in some cases, that's more in home ACs, but if it's overcharged, it can actually create more pressure going down the road and actually do two things: make it not cool, and then it can actually freeze up too.
And that was one question I had, Lynn. When the system stops getting as cold as it should, does the airflow still feel pretty good that's coming out the vents, or does it seem to decrease also?
It'd probably take a long time to drive though.
Or does the air still blow just as hard but not as cold?
I think it feels like it still blows just as hard.
Uh-huh.
Because I've got it on max AC, but just not quite as cold.
Uh-huh.
Because, if it was freezing up, I mean, it'd probably take 15 minutes to drive before the evaporator froze.
Yeah, before it exactly froze.
Then it would slow down the speed of it.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that there is a chance that the system could be overcharged or undercharged in there. So I would say that if the company that did it, if they would pull that refrigerant back in, find out if it's low or not, and then put the proper amount back in again.
Well, it would be very good to know exactly what it's doing. So I'd prefer to run gauges on it and see what it's doing before they suck it out.
Yeah. And Lynn, did you mention as this was going down the road, was the air cool but not cold, or was it just plain not hardly working at all and it didn't feel like you had AC?
It was cool but not cold.
Okay. So
Yeah,
compressor
it was,
is working.
Yeah.
And we have a functioning compressor, but and of course there is always that chance that it could be a weak compressor.
It is. That still throws me off, but yeah, there's still that chance.
Well,
Yeah.
And it's an
the
orifice tube
compressor was
system, so
replaced about a year and a half ago.
What was the
the
compressor?
compressor was replaced. Yeah.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
still leaning. I really think it's a refrigerant issue, level or capacity.
Yeah. And Lynn, John Ryan is feeling that it could be a refrigerant capacity, overcharge, undercharge. I hate to say it, but for some reason I am leaning very heavily toward you possibly having a condenser issue. I'm worried that you may have a blockage inside the condenser. But by far the next step, and that's the main thing that we want to do, is let the company spend more time with it. That had did the work the other day, and let them look at those pressures, and that will tell them a huge amount as they're looking. There's a high side and a low side on the AC system, and as a general rule, the low side should come down somewhere between 20, average
20
around
and 30,
25,
there,
around
yeah.
in that range. And the high side would depend on the temperature outside, but we normally see anywhere from 225 to 275, around in that range.
Yeah, that item.
And they would know if the AC system is functioning properly from looking at those. And if one of those readings is higher than it should or one lower than it should, then that would give them the next step to go to on determining what's wrong with that vehicle.
One other thing that would really help in that situation is maybe a temperature probe on the low side line.
Yes.
Knowing, if it's getting 32 or 31. Yeah. And then the inside temperature is 60. Obviously, there's a
so
issue
there
there.
is a process that they'll go through, but it is a little bit of a time-consuming process. So you'll probably need to leave the vehicle with them and just tell them to run all the other tests on there to find out what's going on with the system.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. And if it makes you feel a little bit better, he kind of agreed with you with saying that there may be a blockage somewhere in the system. And when I told about my little my car got a little bit too close to the rear end of another car about 2 years ago. That's why the condenser was replaced. But they checked the condenser and they, comb the fins and everything out. But he said he would pay a little bit more attention to that when I bring it back in for him to look at it and check it all out.
It sounds like they are on the right track also. And if those pressures, if it has the right amount of refrigerant in there, I lean in the exact direction that they're leaning in.
All righty.
Can you give us a report back and let us know what it was, Lynn?
Oh, I surely will, because he said it was stumping him, and he had another one that needed to be looked at too that was doing the same thing, and it was like kind of reverse, because as you're going down the road, there's more airflow. It should be getting cool.
Exactly.
So it's like, and I was just listening to the show. I always listen to the show, and I was thinking maybe y'all had experienced this before. And
Lynn, I do have one quick question for you. Just in the future, next week or so, driving it, see if that temperature driving down the road gets any better when it's raining. When it's raining, of course, that condenser gets wet, and if there is a blockage, or if it is, say partially blocked, that cooler rain on the condenser may lower the temperature. So if it does lower it when it's raining outside, it may actually be like what you're saying.
Yeah, could be.
Okay. Well, that gives me a reason to take a rainy day ride.
There you go.
Well, great question, Lynn, and you really made us think about that one. Really good. We appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate y'all, and have a wonderful day.
And
you
do the same.
As far as the teenagers, distracted driving, take away all their electronics, their phones, and if there was a way to put a dampener in their car that blocks all of those electronic signals and even for us adults too, we're guilty of distracted driving. That would make things a lot safer.
Lynn, I'm gonna ask you this question while I have you here. This is something that I'm torn on. Do you think that it's good to put a GPS tracker in a teenager's car?
While I was listening to the other gentleman, I was thinking, like with the parents, they have those trackers on their children's phones.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. Because there are a lot of bad things that happen, and sometimes little Johnny says he's going over to Tim's house to study, and he's hanging out with Susie somewhere else, and and they don't have that sense of direction, and they're lost. My son got lost one time, and I had an idea where, and I had him on the phone. Look for this point. Look for that point.
Did his girlfriend happen to know the directions?
No, he was coming home from school, and there was traffic, and he had to take a detour, and he was familiar with that area, and he made a wrong turn. Instead of coming back towards Grovetown, he was heading towards South Carolina. Yeah. But I think it would be a very good thing to have GPS on the vehicle, and not even just for navigating, but for tracking systems for the parents to keep track of the.
Well, even if you don't, just tell them you do. That's scary.
Well, the kids now would find a way to disable it if they want to, Lynn. So,
true.
That or they'd pay their other friend to go where they're supposed to.
Yeah, they'll build this. They've probably got an app that we don't know about that'll show that they're at school and they're actually somewhere else.
It's called Parent Fooler or something like that.
The Parent Fooler. There's a whole world we don't know about, Lynn.
Oh, gosh. Yes.
Lynn, we really appreciate the phone call.
All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
And
Bye-bye.
You do the same. Okay, we are just about on E.
No, we are on E.
Yeah, the gauge is just pulled on down there. We need to pull over for just a little bit, but we will be back on the road very shortly. And I'm Aaron Clements with co-host John Ryan Mooney, and our show producers are Zach Llewellyn, Bo Roberts, Dominic Frito, and Sandy Klein. And each and every one of us would like to say that we do appreciate you riding with us with the CNC Automotive Show. And we also want to say thank you to all of you that called in, the ones that logged in, and to join the show. We had some fantastic questions today. We appreciate each and every one of them. And we'll see you again shortly with the CNC Auto Show.